Hey everyone, Mike here. Today, I'll be bringing you a review on the Fenix HM65R-T. The HM65R-T is an excellent headlamp, and what it lacks in features, it more than makes up with in battery life and brightness. I'm serious, it has almost no features. There are two separate lamps with varying levels of brightness, and that's about it. But is this a bad thing? In this review, I'm going to be explaining why the Fenix HM65R-T is my new favorite headlamp for ultra running, for camping, and for just general use. I hope I can help you decide if it's right for you, or maybe if you'd be better off choosing something else. For this review, I've broken it up into many different sections that you can access via the timestamps in the video description or in the scroll bar right below the video. So feel free to hop down those timestamps, search around, hop to the information you need. So with that, let's get into it. No intro, no fillers, no bullshit. We're hopping right in, and we're gonna start with features. The first and main feature I want to cover would be the beam patterns. As I briefly touched on, we have two separate bulbs here, each providing a separate beam pattern. One would be Spotlight, the other is Floodlight. Each beam is operated independently, and each has their own button for control. You can pretty much think of this headlamp as being two separate flashlights combined into one package. I'll tell you right now, the Spotlight beam on this Fenix is my favorite out of all the headlamps I've ever owned. If you look back on my Black Diamond Storm review, you'll remember that I wanted a beam that was as tight and as focused and penetrating as the Storm, but also a bit wider like the Petzl Tikka, kind of a combination of the two, and Fenix delivered. It's almost like a combination of a Spotlight and a Floodlight, having a beam that's tight and focused enough to light up the trails ahead of me and eliminate any obstacles, but also light up those peripherals too. As for the Floodlight, it's incredibly wide, and I find that even in its lowest setting, it's incredibly useful in a confined space, like a bedroom, like a tent. I even use it during my ultra marathons at aid stations when I don't want to blind the volunteers around me. Now, even though you can operate each beam independently and together, I find that the Spotlight mode often washes out the Floodlight mode and renders it pretty much obsolete. This isn't a negative by any means. It actually simplifies the use of the headlamp. I don't have to go around trying each mode to find the right combo or lumen level. When I need to use the Spotlight, I use the Spotlight, and when I need to use the Floodlight, I use the Floodlight. Simple as that. Speaking of lumens, the Fenix boasts an incredible 1500 lumen output level for about 5 minutes. But don't get mad, every company does this. They all lie about their lumen levels, and it's actually not quite lying, it's more like stretching the truth. When using the Fenix at the highest settings, you'll notice some significant drop off after about 5 minutes, but after about 20 to 30 minutes, it levels out quite a bit. This is, stretching the truth, it's inflating the numbers, but even after that drop off of lumens, you're still getting quite an impressive output from this headlamp. For instance, on medium mode, after that drop off, the Fenix provides 400 lumens of output for 10 hours. That's insane. I used this at the Georgia Death Race, and I thought for sure those numbers were even more inflated than what they were showing on the package. But after 10 hours of use, I was still getting a very high output level, and I was super impressed how bright it was, and that's why I'm making this review right now. If 400 lumens sounds lame compared to 1500 lumens, just wait until my beam review comparison later where I go over different brightnesses, and especially when I compare it to the Black Diamond Storm. The Black Diamond Storm has a max output of 400 lumens before the drop off, so the fact that you can get 400 lumens for 10 hours out of the Fenix compared to the 400 or so lumens out of the Black Diamond for about 3 or 4 hours, that's pretty insane right there. To turn on either beam, a half-second press of the desired beam's button is required. To adjust the brightness, a single click of the corresponding button will cycle to the next level, with 3 brightness settings being available, those being low, medium, and high. The removable battery is another one of my favorite features on the Fenix headlamp. I hate having to carry spare AA or AAA batteries during my races or when I go backpacking, so having a single, relatively small battery that I can swap out on the fly or charge is a huge advantage. Additionally, the headlamp can be charged in operation using a USB-C cable, or the battery can be charged directly using a USB micro B cable. I like having 2 separate cable options to charge the battery because I always have one cable or the other on hand, so chances are always high that I'll have the ability to charge the battery when I need to. The final feature I can think of is the BOA system of the headband. I love me some BOA. I have a pair of shoes with the BOA system. They're amazing. And funny enough, I actually didn't check the product description before buying the headlamp, so the BOA was actually a nice surprise. The BOA system allows you to dial in the perfect fit in the smallest of increments and will absolutely not loosen up until you release it. Again, I love this feature and I am so happy they included it at this price point. Build quality is next, and I am glad to report there are no issues, with the build quality feeling extremely premium at that premium price point. The aluminum body is solid, with the threaded battery compartment feeling well machined and very secure. In that battery compartment, there's an O-ring that helps keep out moisture. Fenix recommends checking on that every couple months to make sure it's still doing its job. I plan on doing that every couple months, plus before any major events or races, just to make sure that it's keeping that moisture out. The aluminum body does add quite a bit of weight and density, but it also feels like it can take a lot more of a beating compared to, say, a headlamp like the Black Diamond Storm or the Petzl Tikka, which are primarily plastic based. The buttons have very nice tactile feedback and are protected by a molded piece of rubber. There's a little piece of plastic here that prevents the buttons from being pushed when it's in the flushed position. This is a nice feature, even though the headlamp does have a locking mechanism that can be activated by pressing both buttons simultaneously. Now, one negative I've seen is that it's very hard to activate these buttons when the headlamp is in the flush position against that plastic backing. However, I mostly use this headlamp when it's in a slightly angled position, just based on the angle of my head, I guess. Round, stupid head, you just ramble on. I personally only use the headlamp when it's tilted down at a slight angle, so this has never affected my operation of the headlamp. Never experienced any issues there. The BOA system feels great, and the headband is thin yet high quality. I do worry about getting this BOA system dirty and gunking it up after a while, but honestly, with some care and some maintenance, that shouldn't be an issue, and this should last a very long time. Overall, I feel like I got my money's worth, with the build quality matching that $100 price tag. With these beam demonstrations, I'm going to show a quick video of each brightness level and then show the still frames side by side and compare them. I was hoping to capture footage on some canal and some power line trails, but I'm from Florida, so I need to watch out for the meth heads, the armed homeowners, and also the alligators, so my backyard is what you're getting. First, we have the spotlight beam at 15 meters. You can see it at low, medium, high, and also max with both spot and floodlight turned on high. Looking at them side by side, you'll notice the medium and the high are quite similar. I believe this is because the light was reflecting off of that back wall, so I think it messed with my camera's exposure a bit, but I can tell you that in person the high is much brighter than the medium. Still, you can see with each mode that the center is quite bright, with the outer ring being darker but still quite evenly dispersed. Next up we have the floodlight at 15 meters, and at its lowest setting I need to get right up close and personal for the beam to hit me. At medium it's a bit brighter, then at high it's crazy bright, lighting up the whole section of wall. As you see from the comparison, the low would be good for a few feet of visibility when you wouldn't want to blind or wake someone up around you. The medium is quite bright and good for many scenarios, and the high is crazy bright and will illuminate a wide area. Next, just for a quick comparison, we have the Black Diamond Storm 400, both on high, and its ultra high mode. Again, I need to point out that the Fenix images on the bottom appear a bit dimmer in video than in person, and you'll see in a moment during my next test what I mean by that. What I want to point out here is the beam patterns, and you can easily see the vignetting from the Black Diamond Storm at the edge of the image due to the narrow beam pattern that I mentioned earlier. Now for this next test, we have the Fenix lighting up a longer section of my backyard, with that tree being about 25 meters away. You can again notice the bright spot in the center, but the outer dispersion of light is just outstanding, and it throws that light beautifully. You can tell from this video that the Fenix not only does a good job of lighting up that spot right in front of it, but also gives you a good wider view of the terrain, or in this case, my kid's playhouse. Here we have the Storm's high spotlight mode, and now those differences stand out much more compared to the view against that flat wall that I previously showed. I do need to praise the Storm for how well it throws those 400 lumens though, because that center beam is pretty bright, and you can see that tree lit up similar to the Fenix, just with those peripherals being significantly dimmer. Next, we have the Fenix with the spot and the floodlight maxed out. I'll swap back and forth between this maxed out mode and just having the spotlight mode on high, and you'll see that marked at the top of the screen. As you can see from the edges of the beam pattern, they are much wider on the maxed out mode, and the center is maybe a little bit brighter, but this mode will absolutely destroy that battery life. For me, the incremental improvement in brightness, if you can even tell, isn't very noticeable, and it's not enough to justify the trade-off with that battery life, so I only use this mode when I'm trying to capture GoPro footage in an extremely dark environment and where I need that full field of view. And now that we're done with the beam comparison, it's time to look at some negatives. Okay. Negatives. Let's hop right into it. Honestly, there weren't many negatives I could think about the Fenix. There are a few use cases I want to go over, but the first negative, the glaring one, is the weight of the headlamp. At 3.21 ounces or 98 grams, it is by no means ultralight. But considering the fact that you won't have to carry any spare batteries, this may save a significant amount of weight and space in your pack, Me personally, I always have a portable power bank on me for my phone, so the fact that I can hook up my phone or the headlamp, that's a big benefit, so I can leave those spare batteries at home. Now for general use, for camping, the weight on your head isn't very noticeable. However, when I'm running, that's when I notice the weight the most. It bounces around, the beam pattern bounces, so you have to tighten up that BOA, make it a little more secure. And while it is a nice high quality band, it's not the most comfortable headlamp. These plastic pieces right where the headlamp meets your skin, those can kind of dig in. So I usually have a hat on backwards, or I have a buff or a bandana to shield my skin from it. So that is a bit uncomfortable. However, like I mentioned, if you have something to put between your skin and the headlamp, it feels just fine. Now the next negative is a lack of features. I run in a primarily urban environment, so I like having a headlamp for my road runs that has a red strobe effect, that has a flashing light effect, just so when I'm running toward traffic, or if I have traffic behind me on the shoulder, they can see that I'm there. The Fenix, it has on, off, and brightness levels. That's it. When I'm running around my neighborhood, or if I know I'm going to be doing an ultra in a more urban environment, I'll go ahead and grab my Black Diamond Storm. This is great because it has a red LED mode. You can easily set it to flashing in case there's traffic behind you, and then easily swap it back to, well, I figured out how to use it. Now it's all flashing. There we go. Figured it out. If you're going to be using the Fenix as your main and only headlamp, you may want to invest in a flashing strobe light that you can clip on your back, carry an additional light, just to be safe. But yeah, for as far as the Fenix goes, lack of features for sure. Another negative are the expensive battery replacements. The batteries that Fenix recommends to use are their own, of course, and while you can get some replacement batteries, Fenix does highly recommend using their rechargeable, replaceable batteries. So what I did was, when I went to purchase this headlamp, I almost purchased it with the single battery. I saw that for a couple dollars more, you can get it bundled with a spare battery. So I got this headlamp with 2 batteries for a reasonable price. If you were to get that battery separately aftermarket, you're looking at over $20 for that rechargeable battery. So you just brought a $105 headlamp up to $130 plus. The last negative I could think of would be that spotlight beam pattern. I absolutely love that wide spotlight mode. However, there could be some individuals that may want a very, very tight spotlight beam pattern. So if you're someone that is looking for a tight spotlight, you don't want that extra flare that goes to the side, this may not be the headlamp for you. Even though the Fenix HM65R-T lacks much of the features found in much cheaper headlamps, it is a product that exemplifies the motto of doing a few things extremely well instead of a bunch of things mediocre. In other words, it doesn't half-ass many things, it whole-asses a few key features. The battery life, brightness. The battery life, brightness, and simplified operation make this an excellent headlamp for runners, for backpackers, for hikers. But if you require different LED colors or strobe effects for safety, the HM65R-T may not be for you. For urban environments like running around my neighborhood, the Fenix is definitely overkill. It is so freaking bright. For these scenarios, I'll be grabbing my Black Diamond Storm or my Petzl Tikka just for those additional features. But for the trails, for running at night, for running overnight during ultra marathons, I'm going to be grabbing the Fenix because I absolutely need a headlamp that is as bright as possible and has as long a battery as possible, so that I can illuminate those trails, see those obstacles, and light up those small trail markings that are hard to see. So that's my review. I hope I helped you decide if the Fenix HM65R-T was the right headlamp for you. If I didn't answer a specific question you have, whether it be technical or in practical use, please feel free, ask down in the comments below. I'll respond to it. I'm no headlamp expert, but I have used these things quite a bit, and hopefully I can answer your questions. And hey, if not me, maybe someone else in the comments can answer it. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I can't wait to see you do something amazing. I can't even put this thing down during. I think I've held this thing the entire review in my hand. That's how much I like it. It's a good feeling headlamp. It makes you feel strong when you hold it.